so alone. Why? Oh, I feel so lonely. Oh, I feel so lonely. I don't know why.
Black or white, high or low, tonight my mind refuses to know. Each friend I want to stay goes round and round and fade away. There is a thought, kind of dark and blue, who can name the fear between me and you. Lights have gone, all got lost somewhere. We still wonder, we don't care. My eyes are bleeding, my hands in the air. How could I be so unaware? It never leaves when I want it to. The old simple play between me and you. There is no hand that leads me through the self-made chords between me and you. There is no hand that leads me through the self-made chords between me and you.
Flying on my flying horse these nights, heading directly towards some fight. 'Cause I am just one of those boys who's breaking window led by fear. 'Cause I don't feel like breathing here in an imploding system I'm in. Tell me where else could I have been? Though I don't like to dislike this world so much, I mostly do. 'Cause I don't feel like being true. And all
Welcome to our session on quantum security, organized by the Kudelski Group. I am Arunima Sarkar, leading World Economic Forum's work in quantum technologies. And I'm very pleased to be joined today by Her Excellency Minister Emilia Stomenova-Du, Minister of Digital Transformation of Slovenia, and Naiki Nair, Chief Executive Officer of Securonics. Naiki will be moderating a very interesting panel that we will be having shortly. The forum, through its quantum economy network, has been working with more than 200 stakeholders over the past couple of years, understanding the potential of quantum technologies, what are the associated opportunities and the applications, and also the risks, including cybersecurity risks, and the kind of governance mechanisms that will be needed for the responsible and secure transition to the quantum economy. And in the last couple of years, since the launch of the network in September 2021, a lot of foundational work has been done by this network of experts. We have done work in the governance and policy space by launching the quantum computing governance principles. There's a lot of foundational work, again, done to create awareness for leaders around quantum security. And we have launched a couple of toolkits and frameworks, the Quantum Transition Framework and the Quantum Readiness Toolkit, specifically in the quantum cybersecurity area. There is extensive work underway also in the application space, both around quantum for industrial applications and quantum for the SDGs. In the annual meeting this year, there have been two impactful reports that have been launched by the World Economic Forum. One of them is the Quantum Economy Blueprint, developed in collaboration with IBM and Sandbox AQ and with inputs from several stakeholders and governments, which creates a blueprint enabling the development of quantum ecosystems in an equitable manner across the world. And we have just recently, yesterday, also launched Informing Global Regulatory Approaches to Quantum Security for the Financial Sector. This is in collaboration with the Financial Conduct Authority of UK, and this specifically looks at some of the regulatory approaches specific to the financial services sector. And I think there are participants in the room. I see Tommaso from the Kudelski Group, who have been contributing to the work that we have been doing in the quantum cybersecurity space. So as the quantum computing age is getting even closer, it will render obsolete many of the current encryption methods on which enterprises, digital infrastructure, and economies rely. And this is a significant risk, and this could actually prevent the technology's true value from being realized. And assessing this risk requires very prompt action at the national and global levels. With this, if I could come to you, Minister, why should nations strategize and plan for quantum security now?
Thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me at this great session. I'm really looking forward for the panel afterwards. So why should not? But we will get there. Quantum technologies really represent a breakthrough in data processing, in storage, in exchange, and also in detection. And as you also mentioned, the economic and the strategic value is pretty clear. We have nothing to discuss here about. Unfortunately, in Europe, both innovators and also industry have not yet been sufficiently mobilized to take full advantage of the potential of all these technologies, and as in some other parts of the world. So in order to safeguard its strategic assets, the interests, also autonomy and security, and very important to avoid a situation of strategic dependency on foreign sources, the countries need to build their own capacity to research and develop quantum technologies, but also to produce devices and systems based on such technologies. While at the same time, I believe that the countries need to invest in the whole quantum stack, starting from the hardware and so on and so on. Quantum computing, quantum information, quantum security bring enormous challenges to traditional cryptography. But at the same time, they open doors for innovative, crypto-agile strategies. And we believe in Slovenia that security leaders should proactively adopt to the quantum era to strengthen their defenses against cyber threats. And I'm sure that we are all aware here that cyber threats are a major issue in all our countries, so something that all our governments are facing with. Quantum computing, with its foundational principles like entanglement, offers a robust solution to combat cyber threats. And the groundbreaking technology enables a unique approach to cybersecurity, where we can use quantum advantages to develop more sophisticated defense mechanisms against potential quantum-enabled threats and attacks. Also, the quantum cryptography introduces a new paradigm in data encryption. And utilizing the properties of quantum mechanics, this method offers theoretically unbreakable security. These are all the reasons why in Slovenia we really support and promote research and development in quantum information, in quantum computing, quantum security. We don't have many researchers, as mentioned. They're not yet mobilized, but we have several of them who are very good. And we believe that in the future, they will develop major products in this field. So in summary, while quantum computing introduces complex challenges to cybersecurity, it also provides the tools for revolutionary solutions. And the focus that we believe is now must shift to developing and integrating quantum resilient technologies to ensure robust and also future-proof cybersecurity frameworks. And now you might think Slovenia is a small country, is a 2 million country. Why a nation like Slovenia should think about? Cybersecurity is a major threat for big or small countries. And we need to protect ourselves because war is not happening only in physical space, but is happening also in the cyberspace. So that's why I ask, why should not? I think each nation, each organization, each government should definitely have its own strategy on quantum security. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, for framing it so well and emphasizing on the urgency of acting on this topic as of now. With this, I would now hand over to Nayaki to conduct the rest of the session and to also introduce our panelists who are here in the room with us. And thank you, Minister, for your opening remarks.
Thank you, Arunima. First of all, welcome. Thank you all for joining this session today, both people who are here in the room with us and also who are joining online for this session. So before I introduce the panelists that will be joining me in a little bit, let me set the context for this entire session. We are talking about how do we truly address the cybersecurity challenges as we enter into this quantum era. You know, one of the questions we keep getting very often is what is quantum era, what is quantum economy, and why should you care about it? In addition to some of the benefits and advantages, there are also some of the challenges that needs to be aware across all organizations. And today, in today's session, we'll discuss about what those challenges are, what those risks are, and most importantly, what tangible steps every organization can take to address those cybersecurity risks and address those what we call quantum threats that are going to be a big part of this quantum economy. So with that, let me invite 4 panelists to join me on the session today. We have Professor Kyo Ito, who is the president of Kyo University. We also have Andrzej Kodowski, who is the chairman and CEO of the Kodowski Group. We have Dorit Dor, who is the CTO of Checkpoint Software. And we have Scott Ferris, who is the CEO of Inflection. Welcome, all of you. So let me first start with Professor, yourself, right? The very first question. you've heard about quantum economy entering into the whole quantum era. One of the biggest questions we get is, what are the advantages? What does it mean, and what are the advantages, and what are the risks that everyone needs to be aware of?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to say that the introduction by the minister was the most precise and also comprehensive introduction I've ever heard, and given in a few minutes. So thank you so much for such precise and also comprehensive introduction. Today I'm here representing quantum computing community. And usually I'm surrounded by very friendly people, but today I'm surrounded by people who think that we are the threats. I try to be a side dish today. But first of all, I would like to show two examples of how quantum computing can actually contribute to the advancement of, for example, in financial sectors. First one, we developed the algorithm for such applications. So first example, let's say you have 1 million euros and you want to transfer this 1 million euro to dollar within the next 24 hours. Your task is to find exactly when the euro is going to be strongest against dollar. Bank will spend 8 hours calculating the best time for you. With today's computer, they're calculating 8 hours. They're spending 8 hours because they try all sorts of different economic conditions, and then they average this out to find out maybe from 16 hours, 43 minutes, 16 seconds from now on, the euro will be the strongest against dollar. But as you know, they're throwing away the first 8 hours. The quantum computer is very good at trying all sorts of possibilities all at once. So basically, you can do all sorts of possibilities all at once, so you can find out when in the next 24 hours you should transfer euro to dollar. So this is the revolutionary solution. Second example, let's say you want to find the correlation between stock price of different companies. Intuitively, you know that when, I don't know, Japan airline price goes up, then so is Swiss Airlines stock price, because they're in the same domain. But let's say if the Nestle price goes up, what will happen to Airbus price? Because intuitively, they have no correlation. But banks and other stock market-related companies want to find hidden correlation between stock prices. Then to find out, that will require trial of pairs of different companies, and the number of pairs of companies in the stock, stock market is almost like infinite. So currently, with today's most advanced computing, you cannot really try to find a correlation. But with the quantum computing, you can actually find out all sorts of pairs trend all at once, so you should be able to find hidden correlation. So those are the things that we contribute to the financial sector of the market.
What are the risks? I know these are great advantages, but
Yes.
do you see any risks that people need to be aware of?
Well, quantum computing contributes to the advancement of the computing as a whole. So my question back to you is, did you feel any risk when all sorts of computing has been advancing in the past 50 years, right?
Awesome. Yep.
So that's what we're trying to achieve. We're not trying to achieve something completely different from past advancement of the computing.
Awesome. Thank you. Andre, if you can share from your experience why organizations should address both the advantages and also any challenges now. Why is the need for addressing it right now? And also, what recommendation would we have organizations to enhance their quantum readiness?
Thank you. I will just start maybe by taking a slightly different approach by saying that quantum computing is really like time travel. Imagine that you are able to go 5 or 10 years from now compared to the standard improvement of calculation time. And it's exactly the same question as what are the risks if you have a bullet train compared to a diligence? Is it a risk or is it just proving a faster obsolescence of the existing technologies? And fundamentally, quantum computing has incredible capabilities. In a way, you can, I would use an analogy with intuition. Intuition is able for us to find a solution extremely quickly. We don't know automatically how, but we are able to find solution much faster. And to imagine quantum computing is able to solve problem. We don't know how, but we know that we can find a solution.
Yeah.
And that is representing a lot of very interesting potential to solve things that we don't fully understand. And if you take the classical security and cybersecurity, one of the key principles is to do things that if someone is interested to break a code, he will try all sorts of combination. And quantum computing is exactly good at finding such a solution. And then you should just look at two different elements. You have first the question, what does it mean today? If you have some key information but have a short-term life, it's not a major risk today. It may be a risk if you continue to use such equipment, yes. But where we have to be careful is that many data that we store today will still be relevant 5 or 10 years from now. So we need to understand that fundamental information that we consider as confidential will become, in a way, public 5 or 10 years from now. So that is the first element that you need to understand. The second element is to say that if you have equipment with a planned life expectancy of 5 or 10 years, you know that they will become obsolete faster than you expect. And then, in terms of how you make things resilient to quantum attack, you imagine like, so I will use another image. You have a fast car, a Ferrari, and you know that the Ferrari can drive very fast. So what is the best way to avoid that you are, you put at risk by a Ferrari? You will say, oh, rather than take a highway, I will take a place where I need to hike to get where I need to go. And so fundamentally, in terms of technology, you need to imagine elements that will make the life of quantum computing very difficult, or let's say, will not allow to quantum computing to take advantage of this advantage. And that is really how we are able to make the system much more resilient to quantum. But said in a different way, we have on one side the technological approach to improve algorithms to make them quantum resilient, but you have also this much more fundamental question to understand which data, which information needs to be protected and for how long. And if you don't ask yourself this question, then you may have very brutal wake up in the future.
Awesome. Thanks for those insights. I really like your analogy to time travel. That's a great one. So moving over to Dorit. Dorit, it is in this massive evolution that we will see in quantum era, what does quantum threats truly mean? Should people be worried about those quantum threats? And most importantly, are there any encryption algorithms that you see are taking traction in the cybersecurity community right now?
Yes, so I'll continue here from the same kind of point of view of Andre. I think we are all in favor of very good technology, and we see a great opportunity in quantum. Now, continue from the analogies that Andre made. If you have a very valuable piece of information, the top secret, and it's stored in your safe, and it's encrypted in an encryption that will be broken, then this data is at risk for two reasons, by the way. One is that somebody could copy it in some way today and decrypt it in the future. And because it's so valuable, they would have enough attention and enough desire to go after it. And the second reason is that it's a lot of effort to replace the encryption of things at rest. The alternative is, if I'm talking to you right now in an encrypted protocol with an online product, and we just want to take care that our discussion will be safe, we would replace the version of the product, and tomorrow we will talk in a safe protocol. So there is a very big difference between changing the encryption protocol just for something that's happening right now, to taking data at rest and switching its encryption both in the operational aspect and in all the overhead around it and in the time it will take us. So if you have a safe full of very secret data and you have to now go and switch all the data to kind of a safe mode, this is a lot of trouble. So in that sense, you should look at quantum safe algorithms, but you should first look at that data that poses more risk, and in parallel start to looking at all your vendors and making sure that they take the right steps. But there are very big differences in the time it will take you to address the different elements. The other thing I want to say is, as security practitioners here around in the conference in general, people don't attack directly the encryption. There are so many easier ways to attack you. They would go after your endpoint. They would go after vulnerabilities in your servers. They steal your keys. They do tons of things that sometimes are much, much simpler than using a quantum computer to break your key, even if the quantum gets accelerated tenfolds and the encryption gets much better. Just the time it will take you to get a hold of a quantum computer to break the key, there is likelihood that somebody else will penetrate you in some other way. So in security, two people are running, one person with shoes and one person without shoes. The only reason when a lion chased them for the first guy to stay safe is because he ran faster than the other guy. So you should be in a very safe mode with many things that you could protect yourself that are much more severe to you, in my opinion, than quantum. But yes, there are parts of quantum that poses some long tail of replacement that you should start to take care about today.
Go ahead.
I would just react on one element. I think that you have always to look, but the comparison between the lion and the shoes, I know it's with the beer. And the question is, if you look at one individual, that's true, that you need just to run faster than your colleague. But if you look at the ecosystem level, then you may have a different approach. And for me, the risk, rather than being a risk for an individual organization or an individual, it's a systemic risk. If you have, for example, an algorithm that is a certified algorithm and you have a quantum approach where you can break all the elements using this algorithm, then you have a completely different economics than if you have just to look after one specific target.
Yes, so at first, my analogy and my discussion was to a customer and not to an ecosystem. But I agree with the ecosystem surely needs to look at this today. But the other small element of this is whatever we think is quantum safe today, we may wake up one day and decide that it's not quantum safe.
Yep.
So just don't be in love with whatever is quantum safe now and solve everything on it. Make sure that what you solve is to an updatable algorithm, to something that the day after somebody brings another algorithm and shows, because there is no mathematical proof that something is not breakable, okay? So be aware of the need to advance it later also in terms of an ecosystem.
Thank you, Dorit. I think that was a really good technical discussion there and good analogies. So if we elevate this a little bit on a business level, Scott, if you could share your insights on which industries do you think will be most impacted in the short term to the midterm?
Yeah.
And any specific examples you can share on
Sure.
industries?
Well, I think the great example, quantum's so complex, we have to resort to all kinds of really cool analogies for people to kind of get their mind wrapped around it. And I think that's one of the challenges of quantum. I think when you say the word quantum, people immediately think about whether they were sleeping through their physics class and whether they need to pull some old knowledge out. But look, the reality is quantum it's a new tool set. Again, we're unlocking atomic physics to do things faster, and I think that's part of the challenge here is that there is no current state. What you know today and what you know tomorrow are going to change, or they're going to change at an accelerating rate. And I think, in that context, I think every industry is at risk. There's no question about this. And there's many different types of quantum. There's many forms of quantum. There's quantum computing. There's quantum sensing. Companies are going to be challenged from every possible angle. I think certainly, someone that wants to do bad with quantum, they're going to do one of two things. They either want to make money or they want to create chaos. It's one of the, maybe they do both. You make money creating chaos, but that's really the view. And if you think about your business and how your business operates, how can they leverage that to make money? Well, they can compromise your data. They can compromise your customers' data. Certain data is more valuable than other. And so, I think clearly the financial services industry, if trust is destroyed in how we transmit stock trade information, that's a big issue, and that's an immediate issue. But I would argue that the health services industry, patient data is hugely valuable information for the life of the patient. And that's compromised, that's a challenge. That starts to challenge the ability to do things like telemedicine. Industries, industrial companies, trade secrets, things of that nature, those can be compromised in terms of information being accessed. But there's also another threat on the industrial side. I sat in a panel yesterday where someone held up a small vial of chemicals that they had developed for a battery technology in the matter of a couple days. So think about this, chemical companies will spend billions of dollars to create a new chemistry. They protect it, they invest behind it, they put the infrastructure to scale it. Quantum computing in many ways is an equalizer. It allows people to do things in a very short amount of time that used to take large organizations years to do. The way we experiment, the way we research is fundamentally changing. Again, we can run multiple experiments all at the same time now. We don't have to do them linear. And when you add in things like machine learning to this machine, the quantum computer is now teaching itself to make better chemicals. We have a sensor, for example, that we built that's a sensor that measures the Earth's gravitational field that actually taught itself. And it did it in a matter of a few hours, not weeks, not months. And so it's not only what happens if information is compromised as you think about your enterprise, but it's also how companies can innovate, how your competitors can innovate much faster. And so I think in that regard, every industry is at risk. Every industry in the world is at risk. I think the other area that clearly plays into this is national security. This is the most prized information in terms of how we want to do things and how we communicate with each other. So that is another industry that is a huge risk from multiple angles. And that's something, if you look at where a lot of the investment is right now in quantum, and particularly in quantum computing, it's looking at it from a defense and security perspective.
Thank you, Scott. That was really insightful. So I'm coming back to Dorit. Based on what Scott just said, the impact it could have on financial institutions, healthcare, industrial organizations, or even nation states now, how do you think organizations should start preparing themselves and start looking at technologies or transitioning to a quantum-resistant world? Yeah.
So I'll first accept what the colleague said here and admit that the industry is one answer, like the ecosystem of the industry, and the companies are a second answer. So I'll refer in my answer to the clients first. Clients have to look at their data and map their data on one hand and understand what's valuable and at rest and is being guarded by something like encryption, and then bring an expert to assess what's in it. But the other side of what they need to do is they need to work with their vendors and understand that their vendors are aware and that they are properly ready based on the timeline that they see the need. So if I have a piece of information that may have been copied, and this would be one of the first things to attend to, I'll make sure fast that the vendor has addressed the issue. And if I have something that's maybe not as hard to replace, and I'm not going to replace it anyway in the coming 6 months, then I have more time to address it. The other thing has to do with moving into the ecosystem, is that now all of us would start to say, okay, so how do I know if they are really protected or not protected? He said he is, but who knows? So at some point of time, it calls for a third-party validation of some form of certification that the company would have to go and somehow give an attestation of how it's protected against quantum, and how if a quantum algorithm would be found not as resilient to quantum in the next day, how they would recover from it quickly. So there is the attestation by the vendor to the customer, but there would need to be some industry-type assurance to these claims, some form of certification, and some best practices. I don't think that all of this is nearly there today. So today you have to rely on what you get and somehow wait for some more formal process to get it signed.
Thank you, Dorit. I'll come to you, Professor. What role can education and training play in getting the awareness out there, and also training, because cyber skills are extreme shortage right now in the industry. So what can the education institutions do to help accelerate the training or bring the awareness to the general?
Of course, so we have to prepare an environment where students can learn the precise current status of the cryptography and in all the security issues. But based on that, nowadays they need to also understand how the advancement of the quantum computing and other computational method is progressing, so that they can actually put their learning in perspective. So everything needs to come together. And one of the issues is that what will happen in the future, I have not so much concern, because now people know how the approximate rate or the prediction of how the quantum computing will advance, so that the cybersecurity people can always try to be ahead of that. But what do we do with the files that are encrypted by today's method? In the future, those encryption can be broken by the time that the quantum computers reaches the point that they can actually break the current keys. So you put this in perspective, but do you think you can actually try to come out with a way to automatically change the encryption from today's method to future ones that are quantum safe?
In a data at move, yes, and in data at use, the answer is yes.
Yes, right.
I think that the main challenge we have is that the data at rest that is disconnected. A data at rest that is connected, the answer may be yes as well. You'd have to find a way. It's not as easy. But if you have kind of cold storage, or it's really disconnected, then I don't know, maybe there would be like an encryption wrapper machine that's self-evolved. I don't know, but
because in the next 5 or 10 years, still quantum computers will not be a serious threat. Let's say yeah, next 5 years. But meanwhile, you can actually try to transfer encryption from the current ones to the quantum safe ones.
But I think you have few challenges here. First challenge, it's extremely difficult to predict how fast a technology will evolve.
Yep.
Take the best example is artificial intelligence. During the last 12 months, we have seen an incredible acceleration. Coming back to the question of data, one of the very specific elements about data is that when you steal data, it's not like if you steal an object, a car or something else. You realize that someone has stolen your car by looking on the road and the car is not anymore here. Data stolen, you don't know.
Yeah.
And the issue is that any data that can be copied today, if later it can be decrypted using an accelerated quantum process, you still have an issue. Of course, it may be not completely up to date because some of the latest data will be, or let's say, the evolution of the data will be better protected, but you still have an issue. So you have to imagine, like if you copy something, you don't see what it is, but 5 years from now, suddenly the invisible ink become visible. So that is the image that you may have. Now, one element that is for me extremely important, and we can talk about the ecosystem, we can talk about clients, but I would say the people or the companies that work on solution needs to have an approach that is very modular in terms of the roadblock that are encryption and data protection. And what you can have, and I remember a discussion with foreign governments that was trying to impose one algorithm. And I have had a pretty interesting discussion because I have said, I have no issue that we put your algorithm in addition to ours, one after the other. And they say, no, we want to have only ours. And that is basically a sign of weakness. You can add algorithm one on top of the other as a way to ensure a future, protection. It can make the computation a little bit longer, but at least you have a way, a roadmap to get a better security.
So let me elaborate on that question. So if the data that exists today or that has been out there for decades now, that was encrypted using certain technology, right? Is that a ticking time bomb going forward?
Yes.
Yes.
So want to
if it was stolen already. From your side. If it was copied. Yeah, that's a very important.
To be stolen, it needs just to be copied.
Yeah, if it was copied, if you have a copy, in one of the days it may be.
That's a pretty scary thought, right?
But quantum computers will not be able to do this in 5 years.
Yeah.
No.
So you have 5 or 10 years to work on.
But then you may have copy that will self-degrade or self-destroy because they are not good enough. That's
yeah. The other thing we have to realize, I think there is a fundamental fear, just like the fear that AI will kill us, like be generative and kill us. So there is a fundamental fear for computer scientists. Because we lived our life and grew I have a PhD in computer science, and we grew in algorithms that we had some assumption on how the world works and what are the baselines. And all of a sudden, somebody is saying, oh, anything you assume may be wrong. So maybe it's about the encryption, but maybe everything about blockchain will fall apart. Or maybe there would be some other algorithm, not something we discussed today, that will fall apart. So we are very hooked on, there was a guy called Shor, he was great, and he did this kind of algorithm to show how quantum computer would solve it. But there may be 5 others that would solve some other things that we are not even talking. So it raises this fundamental fear, just like the kind of the generative AI will kill us. It's the same fundamental fear. Maybe everything we kind of grew believing is going to be false. But at the end, it's not all so false so quickly. It's just like something so basic.
It's good, but there's areas that we have to watch out for. I want to take this question to Scott. Scott, are there any public-private partnerships that need to evolve that could be leveraged to accelerate development or help with this quantum-resistant security measures?
Yeah, look, I think that, in many ways, as we talk about putting protective measures in place and strategies, it's also, we're getting in the way of communicating with each other, right? I think the challenge we have open commerce now. We can go online, we can order something, we feel confident our credit card generally won't get hacked. Generally, it does get hacked along the way. But I think, as different organizations, different countries think about standards, as different industry verticals come together to think about how they protect their unique information, how different companies are developing new technologies. This is a multi-headed beast. Everyone's kind of got an approach. And I think, at the end of the day, we all still need to communicate with each other. We need to be able to exchange data. We need to be able to do it on a reliable way. And I think there's a role there for industry trade associations. There's a role there for governments to come together to think about this. But it's challenging. It's moving so fast, and there are so many other technologies that factor in this. And the biggest challenge is that the debate of when will this happen? When's that magical day? And I think even, I think we come back here next year. I think that date's going to change.
Yeah.
Quantum computers are scaling very fast. They're still not where they need to be. Machine learning and artificial intelligence is basically allowing us to use more and more capacity of the small machines we have today. So there's a race between software. There's a race between hardware. I think the other thing that's going to be a big challenge as we think about coordination is there's somewhat of a narrative of that these quantum computers are going to be these big centralized things, right? They're going to sit in a data center, or they're going to be in a research center, and they're going to be controlled access, and so bad actors won't necessarily have access to them. And that's really not how, not my belief, this is going to play out. Quantum computers are not going to be expensive. They're going to be distributed. They're going to be in data centers. And so there's different ways to do quantum computing, but some of the emerging techniques, ion trap, for example, those are rack mount quantum computers that can literally be bought for $100,000. So these are not $40, $50 million supercomputers that sit in a lab that all kind of protections around it. The compute will proliferate. It'll be inside corporate research organizations. It's going to be in data centers. It's going to be on telecom networks. And so it's going to democratize it, which, again, we can have a whole separate session on the benefits of democratizing it. But also, everybody has access to it now. And so the threats aren't a group of people, bad actors sitting in a dark room somewhere trying to figure out how to hack, JP Morgan's data infrastructure. It's anybody can hack it as this technology starts to proliferate. And I think because of that, it's going to, again, require what are the standards. Are there rules of who gets to buy these machines, right? And I think that's a question that could come up.
Awesome. I'll come back to you, Andre. As the president of Swiss Innovation Arm, InnoSwiss, do you see any role the governments can play to help advocate or to even accelerate development around this?
Of course, because the first element that you need to consider is the fundamental research. Because quantum is a technology that requires significant research still to be done. And by the way, Switzerland has started much earlier than others, and there are some very renowned researchers in Switzerland in quantum technologies. Having said that, it's not only important to have fundamental research, but also to make this research available to other sectors. And that is one of the roles of the Swiss Innovation Agency, InnoSwiss, is to allow to transfer this know-how from the research laboratories to the private sector through different programs. Coming back to the question that we were discussing regarding quantum, one element that people need to understand is that the ideas that we have of a technology today may be very different 5 or to 10 years from now. And we have to think outside of the box, naturally for the positive elements, but also understand what can happen on the other side. And with the question of will it be democratized or not, I would say very probably yes, but even if it stays in some laboratories, we have seen from our own experience that even if you have some very costly equipment, you always find someone that gets access to a lab in a university to do the work he wants to be done. So That's something I guarantee you, people are very creative to get access to this equipment.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch. So now I do want to turn it off to the audience. If anyone has any questions for the panelists.
Hello, I'm Karen Villegas from Kudelski. I'm security expert and cryptographer. So from the perspective of security expert, we know the threats and we know that it takes time to be ready to modify the device that we are using in the digital life to prepare them to be quantum safe. And so I would like to know how you could help us to bring to the executive board these threats to take concrete action.
You know, that's a great question. I'll just elaborate on it. I believe security is no longer just a CIO or CISO issue anymore. It's a board topic, right? And every public board is now required, especially in North America, to do a disclose within 8 business days, 8K release. So this is a great question anyone wants to take about.
I think if you look back through history, 24 years ago, there was a similar kind of existential threat that threatened data security and IT infrastructure. That was the infamous Y2K. Right, and that was, in today's dollars, that was about $1 trillion spend around the world for companies to prepare that, and it did. You can debate whether that was too much or it was overkill, but it did a lot of good things. One of the things it did, it elevated the data or part of the organization to a C-level. It elevated it to board visibility. And I think we're at a similar moment where this is a significant existential threat in terms of how businesses can operate and share information. And it does need to be board visibility. I think I've seen companies now creating roles within the organization. There's accountability reports to the board on basically preparedness, what investments the companies need to make in order to offset this threat. And I'm seeing companies now creating roles where they actually have quantum specialists who just understand what's going on and how fast things are going on to be able to report that information.
I wanted to add
something. Go ahead.
First to the existential threats. So Y2K was just kind of a display issue, but there is an existential threat, which is the Linux 32-bit that comes in 2038, and nobody's speaking about it, which is kind of strange because most devices have 32 bits inside them. So if we want to just count threats that are, so we have few others that are coming. But the other thing, it's easier than it was because now there are quite a few aspects by which the CISO has to report risks. And if he doesn't report the risk, the SEC will go after him. So it makes it automatically visible. And the fact that it's quantum or other technology doesn't matter. We just get on that list. It became so much noisy visibly recently that it's I think, solving itself.
But having said that, it's extremely important to be able to better illustrate how such a risk may be concretely hurting. Because typically in cybersecurity, until recently, we have not seen a big element like an Hiroshima in cybersecurity. Here, it's maybe easier to understand what does it mean if suddenly all the elements that are secret are open book, or for financial transaction, basically anybody can just grab money in your bank account. That is not a very nice scenario for the ones that has a bank account.
That's a great one. Thanks a bunch. I know we have one more question. Go ahead. Yes.
To build on that, I'm in healthcare. High value data, spent a lot of time on cybersecurity. The environment that we're in, the ecosystem of healthcare, is a pretty homogeneous environment. Very few vendors, a couple of vendors hold a very large market share. From what has been discussed here, my mind is thinking you crack the code, so to speak, on one vendor, it could unlock 90% of large healthcare organizations in 10 OECD nations. Am I just getting a little too nervous?
That's the ecosystem.
No, but you are not wrong. No, that's true. And then you imagine the consequence. But I would even go one step further, because until today, we have more information that are not critical. It's very uncomfortable to have your medical data being published, but you have, going forward, for precision medicine, for personalized medicine, elements that are absolutely critical. And this one really needs to be absolutely well protected. If not, that's really a threat that is order of magnitude bigger than what we have today.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Thank you. That was very interesting. This is more of a physics question, but if we were to stabilize qubits, what would the next step be?
If stabilize error correction.
Okay.
And also error correction requires large number of qubits to represent single qubit. So you have to have a good connections between qubits and, good multiple talking paths and so on. So error correction is going to be the biggest challenge that we're going to face in quantum computing community. And of course, theoretically, recently there has been huge advancement. It's like a breakthrough that actually led to required qubits to be 100 times smaller than what we thought would be last year. So there's always a big theoretical development happening in the physics world, but still in reality we have to have a large number of qubits that are connected to each other with all sorts of microwaves or other controls controlling each qubit to have big one logical qubit working perfectly to achieve quantum threats.
But there is, without being a physicist, but there is other problem that sometimes get confused. So the error correction is not something that you solve in a small stage and then it multiplies easily, because there is a cross dependency in quantum between all the elements. So the error correction and the qubits goes all the way, because maybe later the problem is becoming a bit different at a higher scale. So it's not like you solved error correction for 100 bits and now you get 1,000 bits with error correction.
But by the way, to make some algorithm quantum resilient, part of the element is to take into account the needs of error correction, because the need of error correction is creating some limitation. Not to solve some problem, but at least for the one related to cryptography, it's a quite important point.
Any final questions from anyone? I think we'll take one last question.
So I'm Michael Daniel with the Cyber Threat Alliance. I think building on what Dorit was saying about what people perceive as existential threats, from a governmental perspective, the existential threat is the worry that some other government will get a quantum computer before everybody else and will manage to keep it secret and therefore be able to do all sorts of nefarious things. So that's the first question. What do you think about how realistic is that, especially given Scott's assessment about the proliferation of the compute power? And then the second point is that you could also react to being crypto agile is good even in a world without quantum computing, because someone might come up with a classic way to beat elliptic curve cryptography tomorrow using classical methods.
I would say there's definitely a race among sovereign countries around first to build quantum computer for all the reasons, and I think as a general rule, a lot of companies publish their roadmaps. They do that so that their investors remain happy, so they can get more money to continue on their roadmap. There are certainly programs within governments that they don't publish the roadmaps. U.S. didn't publish its nuclear roadmap during World War II when it was competing against Germany and Russia to build a nuclear weapon. And I think you have to assume that there are efforts inside governments to build this capability. And there was a panel yesterday of black swan and quantum. That really would be a black swan, where all of a sudden we wake up one day and this machine has existed not for a week, but it may have existed for a year or two. And you have to assess what information and what threat damage was done for that. I think that's a real
By the way,
possibility.
the conference room is doomsday here. But having said that, don't forget that when you make some research using quantum computing to break a code that is non-quantum, very often by doing this research, you find some elements that can be also very useful with other technologies. And that is something that we should not take outside.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we come. My company in particular, we actually we build computers, we build sensors. We've been around for 16 years. We also sell some of the fundamental components to do the research globally. And so we have a kind of an interesting perspective, just where parts are going and where we don't ship parts. But there is a lot of research, just I think more than people can really imagine, going on inside government labs to really advance the state of the art.
Awesome.
Let's also comment on the second, that it's true that we should have also encryption agility regardless, because there may be one country that is not telling all the others that they actually broke the code without a quantum computer, found some magical algorithm ABC, and so quantum agility is, not encryption agility is like a base good idea if you...
It's such an interesting topic. We can go on and on, right? We can discuss about it.
You can also not exclude some backdoors on design.
Exactly.
That's very...
since we are coming up to the end of the time, what I would ask is for each one of you to share what advice would you give to CEOs or organizations as they're looking into the next 2 to 3 years? Just take 2 minutes for each so that we can wrap that up. You want to go first?
Well, keep watching out for the development of quantum computers, because many of us, including myself, have been working on such technology. Actually, I started my quantum computing research in 1998, so it's been more than 25 years. But we're so presently surprised that we have reached this far, and we will probably move even faster from now on, because we have more people coming into this field. So I would, advise CEOs to, keep their eyes on development of quantum computing.
Thank you.
I would first recommend to look at modular architecture, but also to look at combination of technology. I'm convinced that combining elements in the quantum dimension with AI is something that can bring some breakthrough, even if there are some challenge in using both or combining both technology. I think the day we find really a breakthrough here that can be extremely powerful, and in a way that can have, for the positive side, something that is really incredible. But for the bad actors, you can also imagine that you can solve in a much simpler way how to crack a code. So just think about it.
Awesome. Dorit?
I won't repeat what was said, so I'll take a different angle, and I'll think that every CEO have to have somebody that watches into emerging technologies. So it's not just like, okay, have this one on quantum and have this one on that. There are combinations of these technologies, and the person that has to look at them has to understand not only how somebody breaks a code, but also how maybe with the new technology, your space changes in a way that requires you to do something completely different in order to fit to the future. So there is some aspiring learning from looking at emerging technologies as a holistic question.
Thank you, Dorit. Scott?
Yeah, no, I agree. And that was a point I was going to make, is I think this really needs to be a role in the organization. I think it needs, actually, even beyond the CEO as a public company, I think you're going to see boards really start expecting some kind of information on this more and more. The other thing I would add to this, beyond kind of the security threat relative to your existing data, is how are others using this technology to perhaps put you out of business by being, creating a better product, creating a better material. Again, this technology is very powerful. It in many ways democratizes research because it can do so much. Like I said earlier, you don't need large organizations to make fundamental breakthroughs anymore. We put a tool online in December called Octant, which is a BEC machine. And it made it open to the public, and within the first hour, there were 2 research projects completed on that machine that probably will both result in Nature papers. That was within the first hour of this machine being online and people just playing with it. That's how powerful these technologies are. And at one person sitting there, and there was actually, I think, a reporter from the Wall Street Journal that best described this machine is that you could sit home from the comfort of your couch and conduct Nobel Prize experiments.
Wow.
That's quantum. So think about how that impacts your business.
Thank you, Scott. So that was a very, very engaging conversation and discussion. We are up on time. I will wrap it up with one last thought. This convergence of quantum and AI could be a breakthrough where it may be analogous to time travel kind of concepts that we are going into. So with that, thank you all. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great rest of the day.
And please invent the beam me up Scotty machine. That's far more important.
And thank you all the panelists.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Shadows will turn into light. Brought no colors to my eyes. Like a cry, at least for a while. But I try to die deep inside. Last song hasn't been sung, gotta keep moving on. Keep moving on. You lay out your doubts, you don't have to say a word, it's understood. Let's change things for good. I wish I could